You might have already noticed airports are very busy again, and it's getting more expensive to fly. So what do you need to think about when planning your next vacation? Well, joining us live this morning is Travelzoo senior editor Gabe Saglie. Hey, Gabe, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, Hazel, good to see you.
Good to see you, too. So how much have prices gone up in air travel?
Well, they're up double digits. In fact, just yesterday
Wow.
we saw March numbers come in, comparing March of this year with March 2019, pre-pandemic. There's a 12% bump in a number of people flying. That's good. We're exiting the pandemic. We're feeling more comfortable about flying. But spending, the money it costs us to buy those tickets, up 28% over 2019. Not so good. So for a lot of folks, we've already committed to, in fact, traveling finally after several years for many folks, spending a little bit more, maybe spending a bit more time on the ground once we get there. But that's just the reality that's sending prices up. We expect another bump up as we head toward May. Maybe things will level off by late May, early June, but it should be a relatively expensive summer season. So the big message really is, if you're looking to fly this summer in particular into the early fall, you want to book those flights right now.
Yeah, and there are a lot of factors, right, fueling these price increases?
Yeah, I think right now what we're seeing is mainly driven by demand, consumer desire to get out there and fly. And that's relatively, I'd say, positive news. On the horizon, though, are those jet fuel prices, which are starting now to catch up with the same gas prices we've been seeing at the pump. These airlines several months ago hedged some of the jet fuel costs that were keeping those costs at a certain sort of a dependable level. Now we're starting to see that jet fuel being bought up at these more inflated prices, and inevitably that will translate to the cost of your airline ticket. So that's what we're expecting between now and mid to late May for another 10% jump in airfare pricing that we're seeing now. Most of that demand, Hazel, is for domestic flights.
Okay.
So interestingly, we're seeing some value for some international trips.
Really?
Mexico, the Caribbean, Europe in some cases. I'm seeing flights out of the tri-state area, say to Europe, that rival domestic flights to the West Coast, for example. So, it's the domestic flight market that is being probably seeing the most demand right now. So that means that your early to late summer trips within the U.S. are costing a little bit more.
Wow. Okay. Well, what advice then do you have for people who are looking to plan their next trip right now?
So a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, I'm telling all my friends, I'm telling my wife even, hey, let's give ourselves a deadline. If we know that we just pulled the trigger on a couple of flights in July, if we're looking to travel in September south of the border, we're looking to buy those fares right now. So give yourself sort of a deadline. Maybe it's this weekend to actually pull the trigger on some of these flights. Also, the old pre-pandemic rule where flying on a Tuesday or a Saturday used to be less expensive. Mm-hmm. That reality is back.
Oh,
so if you're looking to fly and you're seeing a little bit of sticker shock on a Friday, check Saturday. Maybe push your flight to Saturday instead. There's just less demand on Tuesdays and Saturdays versus, say, Mondays and Fridays, and that should generate some value for you. And the other thing is these hub-to-hub flights. So if you're looking at an airline that, say, is hubbed in Newark, like United, but is also hubbed in Houston, Denver, LAX, SFO, those hub-to-hub flights tend to be more value driven, simply because these airlines have more personnel, more aircraft parts when they need them at these hub cities, and sometimes those flights will generate some value there as well. But I think the biggest message, Hazel, is we're not seeing prices drop off really till mid-fall of this year. So if you're looking to fly between now and, say, September, October, the time to book those flights is ASAP.
Yeah, and you got to be flexible. That's probably the best bet too, right?
Flexibility has always been king, and it certainly rings true today. Also, miles, flexing a lot of muscle today. I'm not seeing miles required to buy flights necessarily go up. So if you're looking at sticker shock, when it comes to fares, and you've got miles banked in those miles don't have any value unless you use them. So this might be a time to really start maybe looking at some miles, maybe even if it's just one way. But more value in our miles banked in our accounts right now, for sure.
Yeah, those are really some of the other things that you need to pay attention to, right? I mean, these miles that you've had sitting there for quite a while, especially because of the pandemic, right?
And these accounts have been building. I was talking to someone about a week ago, sort of bragging about the amount of miles that they had in their account. And I said, well, listen, unless you use them, those miles mean nothing. They have zero value. So, in fact, I'm seeing more and more folks looking at those accounts that have been building, as you said, over the last couple of years, and starting to tap that as a way to sort of alleviate some of the pressure we're seeing on the pocketbook as these fares continue to go up between now, I'd say, and the end of May, early June.
Awesome. Well, really great advice, Gabe, as always, and always so great to see you. So thanks so much for
Great to
all
see
your
you.
time. Happy travels.
Happy Easter, Hazel.
Happy
All right,
Easter to
bye-bye.
you too. All right.